Well, gather round folks, because Washington has done it again. On May 22, 2025, the U.S. House passed a bill. Former President Trump called it a big, beautiful bill. It passed by a single vote. Republicans are cheering while others are worried. Big, in this case, means a $3.3 trillion deficit. It's a fiscal juggernaut, affecting taxes, healthcare, the border, and classrooms. It was a dramatic affair. House Speaker Mike Johnson called it historic. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries called it ugly. It was a political arm wrestling match. So what's in this bill? Let's unpack it. Over the next sections we'll dive into its key provisions, so grab a stiff drink, you might need it as we explore the big beautiful bill. Alright, let's talk taxes, everyone's favorite topic, right after surprise dental surgery. The centerpiece of this big beautiful bill is making the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act permanent. You remember those, right? The ones that were supposed to unleash a torrent of economic growth, but mostly just lowered income tax rates, with a rather generous helping for high earners and corporations. Well, they were set to expire at the end of 2025, like a carton of milk you forgot in the back of the fridge. But fear not, wealthy friends, because this bill says, let them drink permanent tax cuts. This provision alone is expected to cost over $2 trillion over 10 years. $2 trillion. For context, that's enough to buy a lot of very, very fancy yachts. The bill also implements temporary tax breaks for tipped wages and overtime. Nice, you might think. It also creates a new temporary deduction for interest on loans for American-made cars. Buy American, get a tax break, simple. And for our senior citizens, there's a brand new tax deduction for people over age 65. It's a veritable smorgasbord of targeted tax relief, seemingly designed to offer a little something to a few different groups, perhaps to make the much larger permanent cuts for the wealthy go down a bit smoother. It's like giving someone a single cough drop after you've accidentally set their house on fire. Now, let's pivot from giving money away to, well, making it harder for people to get help. The bill takes a rather stern approach to Medicaid, the health insurance program for low-income Americans. Starting in December 2026, it introduces new work requirements for adults enrolled in Medicaid expansion. Because clearly the best way to help someone who might be struggling with health issues or low wages is to add another bureaucratic hurdle to their healthcare access. The bill also mandates more frequent eligibility checks, ensuring that no one accidentally gets healthcare for too long. The human cost of these changes, according to the Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, CBO, is rather stark. They estimate these reforms would save the government at least $625 billion over 10 years. However, they also project that 7.6 million Americans would lose their Medicaid coverage as a result. The bill also includes disincentives for states to cover unauthorized migrant children under Medicaid. And it's not just Medicaid feeling the squeeze. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, commonly known as food stamps, is also in for some reforms. The bill implements new, unspecified requirements for SNAP, which are projected to save up to $300 billion over 10 years. Proponents of these changes will tell you it's all about promoting self-sufficiency, encouraging work, and reining in government spending. Critics, however, see these measures as punitive, targeting the most vulnerable Americans, low-income families, children, the elderly, and people with disabilities. The border. No Trump-affiliated legislative package would be complete without a hefty dose of border security spending, and this bill does not disappoint. It allocates over $140 billion for immigration enforcement. That's billion with a B, as in boy, that's a lot of money for a wall. And speaking of walls, a significant chunk of that cash, a cool $50 billion, is earmarked for, you guessed it, the border wall. The big, beautiful wall that was once going to be paid for by Mexico. Spoiler alert, Mexico is still not paying for it, so American taxpayers, get your wallets out. The spending doesn't stop at just the physical barrier, oh no. The bill also throws $45 billion towards detention centers, because if you can't build a wall fast enough, you can certainly detain more people. Another $8 billion is allocated for immigration officers, presumably to staff these centers and patrol the border. And to complete the set, there's $14 billion for deportations. It's a comprehensive package. If your goal is to spend an enormous amount of money on making life as difficult as possible for migrants and asylum seekers, supporters will argue this massive investment is crucial for national security, for maintaining sovereignty, and for deterring illegal immigration. critics raise serious questions about the effectiveness and humanity of this approach. Section 5. Defense spending spree, golden domes and bottomless pockets. The defense bill includes $150 billion, with $20 billion for a Golden Dome missile defense system. Critics argue it's more like a Bond villain's lair than a serious military project. Promoted by former President Trump, its effectiveness is debated. The US already outspends the next 10 countries combined. More guns, more domes, and a bigger bill for future generations. Section 6. Green dreams deferred, fossil fuels get a VIP pass. Now, if you were hoping this big, beautiful bill might contain some good news for, say, the planet we all live on, well, I have some unfortunate news for you. It seems green energy is decidedly not on the VIP list for this particular legislative party. In fact, the bill takes a rather enthusiastic axe to several green energy provisions that were passed under the previous Biden administration. Remember those tax credits for electric vehicles that were supposed to help us transition away from gas guzzlers? Gone. Those incentives for renewable energy projects like solar and wind? Also on the chopping block. It's a deliberate, systematic rollback of efforts to combat climate change. But it's not just about cutting support for green alternatives, it's also about giving a big, warm hug to our old friends, the fossil fuels. The bill aims to accelerate permitting for fossil fuel projects. That means making it easier and faster to drill for oil, mine for coal, and build gas pipelines. Because clearly, what the world needs now, in the face of rising global temperatures, extreme weather events, and melting ice caps, is more carbon emissions, faster. The environmental impact of these decisions is, to put it mildly, alarming. We are already seeing the devastating effects of climate change around the globe. Scientists are practically screaming from the rooftops about the need for urgent action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. This bill, however, seems to be operating in an alternate reality where coal is king and carbon dioxide is just a harmless gas that plants enjoy. Section 7. Education shake-up, vouchers, endowments, and $1,000 for baby. Let's turn our attention to the hallowed halls of education, or at least, what this bill plans for them. A major component here is the creation of new voucher programs, collectively worth billions of dollars. These vouchers are designed to help families pay for education outside of traditional public schools. We're talking private schools, parochial schools, even homeschooling. The rallying cry is school choice, which sounds wonderfully empowering, doesn't it? Like choosing your own adventure, but for your child's entire educational future. What could possibly go wrong with siphoning billions from the public system? Well, quite a bit, according to critics. While proponents argue that vouchers give parents more control and create competition that improves all schools, opponents fear a very different outcome. They worry that these programs will drain desperately needed resources from public schools, which educate the vast majority of American children, including those with the greatest needs. They raise concerns about equity, arguing that vouchers often don't cover the full cost of private tuition, meaning they primarily benefit wealthier families who can afford the difference, while potentially leading to increased segregation and underfunded public schools left to educate the most disadvantaged students. In a somewhat surprising twist, the bill also takes aim at certain universities. Specifically, it proposes new taxes on private universities that have large endowments. Think Harvard, Yale, Stanford, those institutions with multi-billion-dollar piggy banks. This could be seen as a populist move, tapping into resentment against elite institutions perceived by some as bastions of liberalism or as hoarding wealth. The overall impact on education quality and access remains a deeply contentious question. Section 8. The political mosh pit and economic fallout. What fresh hell awaits? How did this legislative titan make it through the House? It was less Swan Lake and more like a mosh pit at a heavy metal concert. House Speaker Mike Johnson declared that failure is simply not an option. Former President Trump rallied the GOP on May 20th. Even then, it wasn't smooth sailing. Republican leadership made changes after a May 21st meeting at the Trump White House. The victory was razor-thin, 215 to 214. All Democrats voted against it. They were joined by two Republicans, Thomas Massie and Warren Davidson. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries called it one big, ugly bill. This narrow margin highlights the division in the country and the Republican Party. Adding $3.3 trillion to the national deficit has consequences. The tax plan has rattled stock markets. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent warned about hitting the debt ceiling in August 2025. This bill raises the debt ceiling by $4 trillion. The long-term implications are profound. It represents a significant shift in fiscal policy, social priorities, and the role of government in American life.
Well, folks, here we are again, on a wild roller coaster ride, and it's only getting wilder. Here at Reviews News, we are here for the full ride, and we are taking you along with us. So, buckle up and remember to subscribe, like, and comment. We will see you in the next video.